running the brake pressure reservoir down. And now I get a warning. And now there will be no more parking brake for me. Let's see, now the handle doesn't work anymore. Well, obviously in the real plane, the handle would still work, but the parking brake doesn't pressurize anymore, and that's exactly what happens here. All right, to get the pressure back, of course, I can turn on the electrical hydraulic pump and build up the pressure again. And we can do the same thing, obviously, with the other electrical pumps. If we turn them to the on instead of the auto position, we can build up the whole hydraulic system now. And then we should also be able to engage stuff like the yaw dampers and stab trim and mark trim and what else. All right, but this is all pretty standard stuff. Javier went to great lengths now to animate all those circuit breaker panels. So let's see what we can do with those. For example, let's see. Let's pick something, not flight instruments, flight controls. Here we go. The spoiler electronic control unit. That sounds good. Spoiler electronic control unit is exactly what I'm going to demonstrate now. There you go. So, of course, the spoiler is pretty standard stuff. Those panels are on top of the wings, obviously, and you have a handle here in the cockpit, and if you pull this handle, then of course the spoilers come up. The outer spoilers are flight spoilers that actually work in the air. The outboard, so the complete outboard spoilers are actually spoiler-ons. So if I turn the yoke and activate the aileron, the outer spoilers will respond to the aileron, obviously. And the inner spoilers here that don't have the digital readout, those are ground spoilers only, so they only come up on the ground with the ground lift dumping. The ground lift dumping I can test here. If I put it into manual arm mode, I can actually test this. This is actually an error. This handle should not come back when I test the manual GLD arm, but I guess we have to just change the animation and explain. So I bring it back to manual disarm, and yep, in a real plane, actually the handle wouldn't move. This is something we have to fix in the 3D model, obviously. All right, and this stuff is controlled by a thing that is called the Spoiler Electronics Control Unit, or SECU. And this is on the DC Essential bus, and if I look this up in the manual, at the back of each section of a chapter in the manual, there's a list of all the equipment of this system and what circuit breaker panel is on. So spoiler electronic control units, for one, will be on circuit breaker 4A2 and 1 in 8. So if I was using the model that Javier made live stream today, 4A2 obviously would be down here. 4A2, so this is the fourth panel. A is the first row of circuit breakers, and 2 is the second column. So here you see spoiler electronic control unit 1A, and spoiler electronic control unit 2B is on 4A3. And so they are both powered from both the DC essential bus as well as the battery bus 1N8 and 2N8. So this is on the back side of the cockpit. 1N8 is behind the captain's seat. So here is N, and here is obviously the 8th circuit breaker, so spoiler electronic control unit 1, and on the other side behind the first officer there will be spoiler electronic control unit 2, this one. And again, it's not animated in the model yet, so I can only use my REST API to actually trigger those circuit breakers. So for debugging purposes, this is what I'm going to do. I go to this URL and kill, what was it, 4A1, kill that one, and 4A2, bam, it's gone. And 1 November 8, bam, there was a master warning already. And now let's take a look what has happened. So using the REST API, I now have basically pulled those circuit breakers, and as you can see here, I have some spoiler panels that used to be green are now white, and others are amber. And amber means they are failed, they won't work anymore. And white means we have lost redundancy, because most of the spoilers are controlled. They have 2 hydraulic sources going to them, and of course each hydraulic source is controlled by either the spoiler electronic control unit 1 or 2. And in this case, because now one spoiler electronic control unit is offline, we can only use the other hydraulic system. So that's what it means when the spoiler panel goes white on the flight control display. So if I bring up the status page, we can see, so we have a flight spoilers fault and a spoilerons fault, and we completely lost the outboard ground spoilers, exactly. And this is exactly what we can see here. Outboard ground spoiler lost, inboard ground spoiler still working, and the spoilerons and the flight spoilers have lost redundancy. That's why they are white. All right, let's see. A few other circuit breakers we could play with are for the fire warning panel. So before we start the engines, of course, we are supposed to. Why is this open? This should not be open. We are supposed to test the fire system, and we're going to do just that. Bring back the status panel and bring up the fire warning. Hopefully the sound works.
Jet pipe overheat. Jet pipe overheat.
So the sound is definitely working.
Overheat. Jet pipe overheat. Jet pipe.
So if I press the master warning, obviously I can silence the aural warning, and now we have all those fire warnings come up here. it warns me if the shutoff valve for the hydraulics are open and all that stuff. So this is what the fire test circuit does, and of course you can see here the fire the selection for or the button that allows me to select the engine that is on fire, to arm the fire extinguisher bottles for this engine. This has come on now. All right, so this is what it looks like when all the fire test systems are working. And let's see if we go to if we go in the manual to the fire protection. Let's see what we can kill from that. For example, we could kill the fire detection loops on 1N1 and 1N2, for example, and that would give us a different array of warnings if we do the fire test or the fire fail test. So this is what it looks like normally, and if I kill the 1N1 circuit breaker, I should lose the first loop, I guess. So 1N1 again, circuit breaker panel 1 behind the captain, row N number 1 here, fire detection loop A and B. Let's kill that. And 2. Bam, it's gone. So now we have APU fire fail, jet pipe overheat fail, fire fail, all that stuff. And now, of course, our fire test before starting the engines would produce a different array of warnings. So if I turn on the test switch and it engages both loops, and nothing happens, obviously, because I have just failed the loops. Because I pulled the circuit breakers. All right, see what else we could do. We of course can kill stuff from the hydraulic system. For example, right now, let's take a look at the hydraulics. No, that's not the one. That's the one. So right now, of course, we are running the electric hydraulic pump 1B, and the AC pump 1B is on, let's see, is on AC bus 2 A5, so that would be over here behind the first officer, first row, circuit breaker 5. Yeah, hydraulic pump 1. That's this one. It's a 25 amp circuit breaker. So let's kill that. 2A5. Again, in the actual model, of course, you could just click it and circuit breaker would come out. As long as Javier hasn't animated it, I just use the REST API again. So 2A5 is the one to kill. 2A5. Bam. Circuit breaker pulled. And as you can see here, the pump has dropped offline. The pressure drops down, and we are going to get a warning when the pressure drops. There you go. That is obviously not right. There you go. Yeah, there's and this is actually how most of the system failures are modeled. So the way to simulate the train for a systems failure is